I like to watch chickens too, but I don't really need to have one.
You might be starting. All right, let's try. Hello, thank you so much for watching Sashiko Talk number 6. I'm so sorry about this. It's going, right? It's probably going. Perfect. Okay, please let me know if it doesn't. If bad. Please let me know if the audio is not on. The audio was doubled for some reason last time. I'm sorry about it. I re-signed in again, so it should be now. Let me just check it again. Okay, should be good. All right, thank you so much, Sharron. We have Sharron as a guest as always, and I will do this Sashiko Talk number 6. Wow, which means 2.5 months. I do it every 2 weeks, so that is crazy. How are you, Sharron?
I'm good. It doesn't seem like it's been that long since we started. I would have said maybe 3 times.
Maybe 3
It's
times.
amazing. Yeah.
As always, I didn't bring that much topics, so I will answer the questions. I have some. I might want to mention about something I wrote today on the Instagram, but besides that, I will have a question. I will answer the questions while stitching, and I will share our stitching too. Okay, perfect. Looks good. Okay. Why is it my computer doesn't? Oh. Okay, anyway. I'm sorry about this. Sharron.
Is it funny again?
No. It's okay.
Okay.
I think it's my computer issue. My hands are showing everything. It's okay. Okay, fine. Spring has come. It's very warm here. How is it in Colorado, Sharron?
Same. We had that really big snowstorm, and then it's been at least 60 and sometimes even 80 degrees. So it has gotten, the grass is turning green, and it's really pretty.
80.
Pretty.
I'm 80 degree.
But sometimes, yeah.
Wow.
A couple days. I'm not ready for that.
I realized that my lawn has probably the disease. It's so sad. It's kind of yellow at this moment, and it's not kind of a good sign, right? It should be green.
Well, once it's spring, it should be green. It might need more nitrogen.
Yeah, I gave them a nitrogen, but it looks like some disease called some ANTO, something like that.
Oh, that's discouraging.
It's spreading little by little every year. I thought that was the nitrogen, and I gave them that, but maybe something else.
Yeah.
It's scary. I want to spend more time on that, but then I won't stitch.
Can't do everything.
So yeah, that's very true. I cannot do everything. All right, thank you so much for checking everything. It sounds fine now. It sounds good. Thank you so much. Please let me know it became kind of funny. So what do we talk? I don't know how many people are following the Instagram. I don't know how many viewers on the YouTube follow my Instagram, but today's post was about the anger. Like, I didn't want anybody to minimize the anger or emotions that I have, but I don't really get angry. So it was not even an anger. So it's just, sometimes I say something I'm sorry, that's some sad sound from the dog.
I will put him in the other room. Then it will be
That's
better.
why.
Just a second.
It's okay. Don't worry about.
It's because I'm talking and stuff, and he has to. I'm not talking to him. Come on. Let's go out.
No, it was really sad voice.
You want to go see the other people? Oh, yeah, I'm gonna talk. It's like your cat who jumps on your work.
Yeah, she always jumps on my work. She loves Sashiko thread, not stitching. She loves Sashiko thread.
Yeah. I used to do weaving, and the cats loved the motion of the shuttle and could cause a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Why do they like those things?
Because it's moving.
Very true. Very easy. Wow. That means my hands are still moving too much. I think I have to reduce the movement. Okay. So I don't know how to put this kind of question to the American people, actually, to not even Western people, the American people. It is very important to be nice each other in the US, isn't it? It's very important. I'm learning that, like, when
but it's important in Japan too. I mean, I think you're a very polite culture because you are living with so many people in such a small space that there are quite firm rules about what you can do. But I think that you guys have you have more acceptance of differences of opinion, and that's okay. You don't feel like you have to resolve and have the same opinion always.
Yes. That's a good way to say it. But I think many Japanese people will agree with this, but they are very cold. We are very cold. So we kind of don't care. Like, what I do is what I do. What you do is what you do. So, sometimes the Japanese teacher don't even make a comment when the student do something not following the teacher. They just smile and kind of cut them off. That's how. It's really cold, right? They don't even try to teach or get upset. They just anger or emotion is something that they care for something, but Japanese people are very cold for that matter.
It's kind of an uncaring tolerance.
Like, yeah, you can do whatever you want.
Or ignoring almost because yeah. Huh.
So the sushi is, the American sushi is very different from the Japanese sushi. It's I like both. I like really both of those. But the Japanese people really don't consider the sushi in the US as the sushi.
Right.
They think that we hope that the American sushi is originated from our sushi, but sometimes they look completely different. But we don't really talk about the difference because we know that everybody knows the difference, and we don't even have to get upset. We don't really care what they do outside of Japan. That's because we are kind of certain for sure that that's not gonna change anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we try to be polite, but it doesn't mean nice.
Yes. Polite is the more accurate word.
We pretend, we can fake. But in the US, the niceness is kind of an expected value. Like,
yes.
When I ask how are you doing, you're not expected to start kvetching about something for that.
It doesn't mean they want to know, right? That is just the polite question you ask. Yes.
You are kind of expected to be nice on that too.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
and I think that when you just say this is how things are, I don't think you expressed anger.
Mm-hmm.
I think they they felt uncomfortable and labeled what you did as anger. That's what I think.
That can be, labeled as the misunderstanding, but at the same time, it's
On
more like.
purpose.
So it's very interesting to go across two cultures.
Yes.
And that's why I want to really, I mean, this is not even like a critical or judging or even complaining. I really wonder what they say inspired by when they say those words. Like, I'm inspired by this or that. Probably how it looks, right? That's what
yes, absolutely. Just the actual how it looks, the type of stitches, not even necessarily the type of cloth or used cloth, or I think that's it. And they feel like if they put inspired, then everything's acceptable. Maybe
it's their niceness too. I mean, it's their caring for that. They try to not to kind of offend
the cultural appropriation. Maybe, maybe.
Just a second, okay? Something might be wrong again. I hope do you hear that on your?
I'm not hearing anything. No.
Should be good. Thank you for waiting, Sharon. Technology is very challenging sometimes.
It is.
So I really want them to call Sashiko if they want to call Sashiko, not inspired. So I don't want them to kind of blow it. If they want to make Sashiko, I want them to call it Sashiko and try to learn more. So it's very, that niceness is something that I admire about American culture. At the same time, it can be difficult when they do not realize that niceness there. If they know that that's the niceness they're expecting, that's a very much beautiful culture. But
when we lived in the Netherlands, I discovered the Dutch are very, very direct. I loved living there. But they're very direct, and they will ask you any question, like, how much are you paid? I mean, what's your income? How much is your rent? How much is, they will ask anything. And, wow. But to them, it's not a big deal. If you say, oh, I don't want to talk about that, then they'll accept it. But like, I needed to have a pair of my riding boots repaired. And I took them to the store and I said, can you make these bigger? Because I was biking to work and my calves had gotten bigger. Can you make these bigger? And the guy says, no. And I'm like, oh. And I asked again, well, it's really important. Can you make them bigger? And he says, well, it would be very expensive. I said, that's okay. It's important to me. Please, how much would it be? And it was like $25. It was not expensive. But in their culture, they often say no first. And if you really want it, you will continue to pursue it. But as an American, that made me so uncomfortable, because it wasn't until I lived there that I realized we are taught basically should never ask somebody to do something where they will say no. You should only ask them for things that they will say yes. It's like imposing. So that was just a funny cultural thing. And I never really got used to it, but I got to where I could just say, oh, I'm not going to answer that. If it was a question that was kind of I wasn't comfortable sharing. I don't know. So I would imagine the Dutch and the Japanese could get into it a little bit too, because I think there's sort of these unspoken, unwritten rules about things you do say or don't say, or how you say them. And I don't know. I think these are also tricky times because of if you haven't lived in another place, you don't realize how many of these cultural differences you bump into. especially where you're sharing, a technique from a culture, and you're sharing all those stories.
It's it's very challenging. At the same time, it's very interesting how American cultures are kind of perceived differently. Before I moved to the US, I was taught or I learned that Americans are very much the culture of freedom. You can say what you can be honest to yourself, or this individualism, how you think, what you think, what we feel is the most important value in this culture.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought everybody was more direct, more kind of efficient in terms of communicating the messages. But in reality, when after moving here, it is very much covered. Like it takes time to get into that niceness. There's a big thick boundary of niceness, and it takes a lot of time to get into that.
Right. Reserve is the word we use for
reserve.
And you live in a part of the country where there is more of that. New England has more than out west or California.
Oh,
I think.
East Coast.
Yeah. Like if you go into a store, do you smile at people?
Mm-hmm.
If you walk into a store, would you just talk to somebody that you didn't know that was there or smile at them? Because when I lived in Massachusetts, they would look at me like I had two heads because I was just boldly speaking to them when I didn't know them. That was not really in the unwritten rules that I was supposed to do that.
Yeah, that's another good point. Like I shouldn't really summarize all Americans as American because it's completely different in the East and West Coast, or even the middle.
But it's not as accepting individualism as you had been told, is it?
Nope. Nope.
But that's become a bigger problem too with social media in general, because people aren't looking at your face and they have reactions that they probably would be different in person, I would hope.
Yes. So those niceness brings the expectation that everybody should be somewhat nice to the beginning.
Yeah.
Which is perfectly fine, but at the same time, when teaching or sharing some stories, not my personal image about like I can be very nice to some specific person, but it's not the same story of sharing some of my culture. So it is very understandable that someone take my comments or my saying as the anger or frustration, because I use the word pain, not much anger. I use the word pain a lot. So pain associated with anger, probably.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably have to think a little bit more carefully in the word usage. At the same time, being nice doesn't really solve anything here. So I really have to.
Well, and I think, as I said, I think that some discomfort is necessary for learning, especially in terms of being careful about another culture or aware of differences in approach, or if you've just been blindly going on saying this is the only pizza, you might be a little discomforted to learn that no, in fact, there are many other pizzas and they're all okay. And you're running into that too. But yeah, I have never felt like you were expressing anger in a story.
I sometimes get angry.
Sadness. Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I state the beginning, like I am very angry and I'm writing this anger. But it's not that. Yeah, but this confusion is pretty much the best. Like, why is it happening like this is probably the honest feeling that I have. It's so like in Japan, nobody asks how are you doing. Like if you ask like how are you in person, the reaction will be, what are you talking about? Like, are you out of your mind? Of course.
What do their greetings mean?
What do you mean greeting? Like hello?
When you see somebody for the first time, in a day. or the second time? What did the greetings that you say to each other
We bow
mean in
each other.
English?
We bow each other. Huh?
You bow and show
You-
respect. Yes.
Show respect as well as the boundaries as well.
Ah.
I mean,
Yeah,
don't
that
talk
is
to me.
not what we
Do
do, is
not
it?
talk to me. Like I am, today's, not a good day. So please do not talk to me. And bow.
Oh, how handy. I wish we had that.
I mean, you don't want anybody to start bumbling their horrible day by asking, how are you doing? Like, what is the risk management there? Like you are the very good risk manager, yet asking somebody how are you doing is giving the opportunity for them to share some of the personal stories if they do not share the understanding of that they're not actually asking that. That is very strange culture here.
Yeah. Yeah. But the answer to how are you doing is fine. How are you? It's not a real question. It is hello. It is a hello and a bow in a ridiculous form.
It's very interesting. Some people think that the Japanese culture is very interesting, but American culture is very interesting. Also, England is also interesting too. But like the how do you do?
Yes.
I learned that when you say how do you, when you are talked to when somebody say how do you do, I reply to that how do you do, right? Like if
you don't even answer, you just say how do you do,
and then I say how do you do, right? That's how I learned. That's how I learned. But if that's happening in the Japanese people each other, the second person, so when you talk to me how do you do, and I reply how do you do, and you are the one who were told to how do you do, so you have to reply to how do you do. So it's like an endless how do you do. Well, it's a kind of joke, but that's how it kind of explains when we take seriously.
Mm-hmm. In the Netherlands, when you meet somebody, you shake their hand and you say your last name really fast so no one can hear it.
Why?
Or understand it. I don't know. That's what they do. It doesn't make any more sense than what we do. I think it's all just I'm not threatening. I acknowledge you exist.
That's
and they're
nice.
all kind of funny, when you really start looking at them.
That's nice. That's nice. So that's something we kind of have to share before talking about the cultural stuff. We call it, like, before defining some foreign culture, we have to define the condition to define that word.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think that's what I'm trying to do throughout the Instagram and YouTube.
Yes.
Explaining the why I say those things, and they can be found there too. So, it is very interesting too. But they're angry though. I don't like that, but they are kind of angry when they are uncomfortable.
Yes. Yes, but I think you see that in a lot of what's happening in our culture right now. The people, the majority, the privileged are angry when others say, hey, you're exploiting your privilege. You're not paying attention to these minorities or these disadvantaged, whichever it is. But yeah, there are some people that are like, hey, don't mess with my world.
That's so, like, Japanese are the Japanese who lives in Japan, like I was, we were very privileged. It's not exactly same as the white people in the US right now, because in the US there's more diversity. In Japan, it's more like most of the population were Japanese.
Right.
We didn't even realize that we were privileged.
Mm-hmm.
But there are those minorities, and I never thought of those people's pain, and I should have, and I'm learning that as well. At the same time, go ahead.
No, you finish. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Then at the same time, I was very privileged as the male. like a male, man. That's the
Mhm.
biggest privilege I had, and I didn't realize it until recently. So privilege itself is not a bad thing, or even it's not a good thing or bad thing. It's just the thing that we carry. It's not something we can change. It's just how we live with that.
Right. And then I think that it is good to realize you have it.
Yes.
I think traditionally the Japanese were kind of xenophobic, right? They didn't like Koreans or other people from other Asian countries that came and lived there were not viewed as highly historically. I don't know if it's still a problem or not.
Well, you throw the bomb.
Sorry.
Historically, yes. I think historically, yes. Around the world, yes. You are well. That's another discussion that I have to do in Japanese. But
Okay.
you're right. You're very correct in understanding about that. We are very exclusive for that matter.
Right.
That's why I didn't
so
really. Go ahead. Go ahead.
If I went to Japan and I started writing stories about America that somehow disrupted that view, there might be some anger. Or that addressed it. I don't know.
There might be, but at the same times.
Or they might just shake their head and say, she's silly, or she's, those are her crazy views. I don't know what they would say. I think they would just not read them if they didn't like them. They wouldn't tell me they were so bad or call me angry. I think
maybe
the response would be different.
Maybe. I think we can follow the same conversation when, how men react to those women who pointed out.
Oh, yeah. The original feminists were really not treated very well, were they?
That's probably the equivalent of
Yeah.
white female coming to Japan and share some of those pointing out may not really shake their feelings much because you're too different.
Right.
But we do not really feel the difference as long as we live in Japan. And I didn't realize it until very recent until I moved. So probably the closest equivalent is the
gender.
Then the reason I'm saying that is I would have been very much defending myself that I'm not privileged.
Yeah. That's a good example. Yeah.
I would use all the examples that I could use to say that we are equal. The male and females are equal. But at the same time, we were not.
Yeah.
In the US, I feel a lot more equal for that matter. US is much more advanced in terms of the gender equality. I'm not saying they are equal. I'm just saying it's better comparing to Japan. So it's very sensitive topic. At the same time, I hope that they understand that I'm not attacking them to do something. I'm just asking them to realize that I respect those people, non-Japanese people who contributed to Sashiko a lot. Without them, the Sashiko wouldn't become the trend, and it could be, as much as I want to protect the Sashiko I do, there's also the risk of completely buried under the ground, buried, completely eliminated from the history by not getting popularity. So it is very much respected to get attention. Oh, I'm sorry, there was a comment. Good evening from Brazil, Mr. Fletsia. Thank you so much. Wow, you're very polite. I was able to discover and then investigate Sashiko for my final thesis in college. Wow, thanks. So
that's great.
That's awesome. That's my dream. Many people think that I should go to the grad school and they don't know how much I hate studying. So But it's probably something that I could investigate more.
I think that a fine art degree might be better than taking classes in finance. It might be more interesting.
I don't know, Sharron. I really didn't like studying. I don't like studying per se. I cannot thread the needle now. I'm shaking because I'm talking about studying. I think I don't like writing or answering something that someone want to read or someone want to hear that. So yeah. I don't know how to call that in English, but there's a word called amanojaku. It's in Japanese, but that's the word for somebody who does completely opposite every time they are supposed to do the one thing.
So oppositional. Yeah.
Like when everybody say like go to buy stock, go to buy cryptocurrency, I'm the person who starts selling those. Which I don't anymore. I don't have time for that. But
it's also not fun to be doing everything to be evaluated. It's more fun just to make things because you enjoy them or somebody's going to enjoy them.
So it's very how can I put this way? But I am learning a lot. I mean, your comments are always helpful to understand what's going on.
Well, I think the one today is more a reflection of their problem than anything you're doing.
Yes. So I wasn't even kind of upset about what he wrote.
Yeah.
I mean, when do I get upset? I think I got too upset in the first time I realized the problem. Ever since, everything else is kind of the smaller version of that first instance, so I don't really like get furious.
Good.
Yeah. I get emotional, but I probably have to define what my pain, when I say pain, what it means. I have to probably explain that somehow.
I think you have sometimes, but yeah, maybe.
I have done that.
You have.
There was actually a request on the Instagram saying that the difference between the Americans' anger and the Japanese anger. That's a very good question. Is there any difference between the Americans and Japanese in terms of the anger?
I don't know that I've ever seen. When I have been in Japan, I have not ever seen a Japanese person get angry, because they show anger. That's probably more accurate, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've not seen them show anger. I don't think that would be true for very long in the States. I think if somebody gets angry, they just vent. They don't feel a compulsion or a societal expectation to keep it more internal. Except I wonder if in situations where there's differences in status and rank, perhaps there's more anger expressed. But as a tourist or a guest or a customer in a restaurant or anything like that, you don't see anger expressed. There.
We don't really get angry.
Yeah.
Well, we accumulate. I cannot compare that because I'm not very, very familiar with the anger in the US. But for Japanese, when I decided to get angry, that's the end of the relationship.
Yes.
Like, that's already over the line.
Okay.
So there's no such a thing as let's get divorced. It's divorced.
Okay.
So in the US, there's like 6-month period or even 3-month period. Like, no.
It's usually 6. Most places it's 6 months between when you file and when it's final. Yeah, but they don't do that in Japan. It's just we've decided we don't want to be married, and so we're not.
It's included. It's already included. So like I don't know a lot of cases of getting back together. Like those 6 months is more like a cooling period, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know neither. I haven't divorced.
I don't know anybody that's gotten back together either.
Oopsie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the anger I write in English and the anger I write in Japanese are completely different.
That's interesting.
So when I say I am angry in Japanese, it requires a lot of effort on both sides to fix that issue. And usually anger requires some trust and love, for that matter. Like if I don't love someone, if I don't like someone, I really don't even get angry because that's simply a waste of time. So like, okay,
Yeah.
fine.
You're more likely to write them off than to bother to be angry, right?
It's so cool. It's very cruel. Verbalizing Japanese culture is kind of scary. Wow. Well, it was not allowed. It was not really recommended to have the emotions in the culture per se. So we're very good at kind of killing the emotions until the end. So when we have to share those emotions, something is really, really bad. So
well, I remember seeing pictures, the traditional Japanese pictures at a wedding, and they all line up and they have these very glum faces. Do you know what I'm talking about? They don't smile. They have the whole family together and they look like they're at a funeral, not a wedding.
Well, you have to define what smile is first. I don't know how to smile neither.
You laugh and smile all the time.
I do. But if I have to smile for some purpose, I don't know how. But
so that's why they don't smile in the pictures? That would be hard.
Well, like, why are you so happy? Like, yes, you might be happy for your daughter or for your, son, but somebody's friend's brother, like, who is he marrying to? That's a bad joke, but it's really not recommended to share or show emotions.
And that would be a permanent record of these emotions. Yeah, it's a difference. It's really interesting.
We even have the word for that in the Japanese culture. One is the honne is the true feeling, and tatema is the fakeness, like fake persona.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it's kind of recommended. You should have always those, not even fake.
Outward,
yes,
the appearance or whatever. Yeah.
Adjusted persona outside. And you should always hide the true meaning, true feeling.
That's like with the boro jackets. You have the pretty side out and you have the actual patched everything in.
To hide the very real part. We want to be very fake. So,
do you think?
Go ahead. Do I think?
Well, for us, in many cases, that inside with all the patches is what's the most beautiful. Do you think that's not true for the Japanese, just because of what it represents, or at least not the people that made it?
Depends on when. So there are, of course, people who made patchworks to show outside. They're always the different people in the same culture. But with imagining all the conditions or situations they had, it is probably safer to imagine that which is back and which is not, which is front, which is inside, which is outside.
Right. Do you think that was true too when they were putting the stitches over the hemp? Like you were at the museum and saw the pants where it was all the more like Kogan stitches.
Yep.
And so that showed, right?
Well, Kogan is kind of different than the stitches we do. It's more like a filling
Yes.
the gap.
Yes.
So both sides are beautiful regardless. Like Kogin and Hishizashi, they are kind of designed to look both sides as beautiful side.
Mm-hmm.
The different
But
patterns.
there was no hidden side, really.
There might be, but since both sides are beautiful, they didn't really. I cannot speak on behalf of them because I'm not really educated about it. But
I just wondered.
Yeah, well, it's a very good question. I should ask somebody, but those people who had to stitch, the stitching itself was not a sign of happiness. They probably enjoy stitching itself. Well, not everybody, but some people enjoyed that. But at the same time, they didn't want to share those.
And they might have preferred to have warm fabric and not had to stitch, right? So it may have been similar.
Yeah,
some
of course.
Shame in that all they had was this not warm hemp fabric. Yeah.
It can, even our generation experienced that too. I didn't like the applique.
Applique, yeah.
Those like cute things on your pants to cover your
hole. Yes. We used to put braid on the bottom of our pants when they got too short because you'd grown.
Wow.
I never did that to my children.
But I believe kids didn't like that. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
It's kind of the sign of that we couldn't afford. Well, my families were super rich, so my minds are kind of different. But my friends didn't like it to wear those things because that kind of explains that they didn't have enough money to buy a new one. It's you have to wear it. It's very interesting that we have to use those fabric in the community. That's the key. If they can just use it inside the house, they probably didn't care which side is the showing or not. But since they had to go outside with those jackets, that's why they had those hiding side.
Yeah.
So there are also the throw or those blanket of the borough.
The futon covers, yeah.
That doesn't have that specific front and outside inside. Those
were used in the house though, right?
Yes.
Those were private.
Yes. So it's more difficult for us to find which is outside or inside because they care probably less. They worried less. Of course, they should have which side to show, but it's not as significant as those jackets that it's completely one fabric outside, like one looks like one fabric outside and inside a lot of patches. It's not that difficult to imagine if we can imagine that.
Yeah.
But that's what we're trying to follow. Well, that's why kind of it's a very big statement. So I sometimes write it on the Instagram, so it's not surprising. But that's why I sometimes wonder when people say Boro inspired with using those flashy red fabrics.
Yeah.
I want them called to Boro instead of Boro inspired. It makes sense. It makes more sense to me. But yeah, I don't blame them because there's no information available. My grandma's generation are probably the last generation who actually observed those actual people to make Boro. Well, yeah, my fifth generation ago is about 100 years ago. Yes, probably that's about the time that the Japanese people actually made boro for the last generation. They really don't share those stories. They don't want to share that because it's too shameful, I guess.
I think it's very easy to imagine much of this just, I know a lot of it was found in barns and things. It was just put away, hidden, not used anymore, and it could easily have just disappeared.
That's what happened. People tried to burn that. People tried to bury that.
They certainly weren't passing on the skills, which is a shame.
Yeah, but that's probably happening everywhere, not only in Japan. Probably Japanese preserved much better than the other culture.
Yeah.
I sincerely believe that this hand stitching culture exists pretty much everywhere in the world.
Yes.
They
and
just
darning, for instance.
Yes.
And I think people are doing this visible mending and darning and stuff now. But if you look at the quality of what we do now compared to what they did when it was the only way you had to preserve your sheets or your shirt, which had also been your father's shirt, that's more the same. And they used to just do it beautifully. My grandmother could take the edge of the fabric, take the threads, and then reweave it, if you got a hole in your suit, and reweave it so you couldn't even see it.
Wow.
Who could do that today? A few curators at museums, maybe?
Probably that's a lost technique. Well, that's what innovation brought us. We don't have to do it anymore.
It's true.
That's the innovation, or we call it what do we call it?
Progress.
Evolution
too.
Darwin. We choose what we can do to be the better human. So we can use the internet, we can do this kind of live session instead of mending by itself. Both of them are good. It's not a good or bad, it's just, I think imagining is the key for that.
So, you're still working on the furoshiki? I thought you were going to have that done.
Wow.
You must be very close.
Yes, it's a few more lines. So I will finish it today. So I'll promise I'll finish it today. Wow, Sharron, that's a very good passive-aggressive comment.
I didn't mean it to be.
I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you. That's another thing I don't really understand. I did not understand it in the American, like passive-aggressive. Like, what is that? I think I still don't understand it. Although I use it right now, I still don't understand it. So it is the passive but aggressive.
Well, if I didn't like you and I wanted to mock you, I would say that, but it would be with a different tone of voice. So
how can I get better in that?
In understanding that's a tricky one, because do the Japanese use sarcasm?
So it's sarcasm.
It's close to sarcasm. It's often close to sarcasm. And somebody will be passive aggressive, or passive aggressive is if somebody is telling me I have to do something, but I don't have to. And instead of arguing, I just don't do it. That's passive aggressive.
Like I'm gonna do it but not do it?
Possibly, or just not ever responding to them, or saying yes and never moving off the couch. All of those are passive aggressive. And it's just ignoring what they want, or what else would it be? Passive aggressive. Could you use it to manipulate somebody else as a passive aggressive thing? Yes, but it would be like, well, more if you cared about me, you would be doing this.
Wow.
Instead of saying, would you please do this for me? That would be direct, right?
Mhm.
So it's more, well, if someone cared about me, they would do this thing. That's a little bit more in a passive aggressive approach.
But
it's not having direct conflict. It's having indirect conflict. It's influence in, but not polite either. It's better to ask. In our culture, it's better to just say, will you do this? But you shouldn't do that if you think the answer is no either.
but
the way to not say no. That's what it is. It's a way to not say no. They ask you to do something you don't want to do. And instead of saying, no, I won't do that, you just don't do it.
I think I really have to learn how. So I understand. So my answer is very direct in comparison to do that.
Yes. Yes. You tend to be, and I would be in another language as well, because you take the question literally and you answer it directly. Yes.
Wow.
We all do that in a second language.
Now I'm not gonna change it. I'm not. It's too much to learn. But so when they say that it would be great to share more stories, they
mean that. Yeah.
They mean that, right? Okay. So
that's fine.
Wow. And is it safe to say that most of the Americans kind of understand the passive aggressive as much as you do?
Yes.
Well, like more or less.
They may not all use it. Some people like conflict. They like to just say it directly. And when there's a disagreement, they feel like they're seen, because you have to acknowledge the disagreement. I am not built like that. I don't like conflict. So I would be much more likely to kind of nod my head, but not do it.
I have to learn a lot.
But people are all different. Yeah. And
wow.
I would prefer to, ask somebody directly if there was something I needed. And I might say, if you can, could you do this? And give them a way to say no, that's still okay. But I wouldn't try to manipulate them into doing it. That part of passive aggressive is unpleasant. Wow. I can't think of any examples.
Well, I will read watch some comedy or something like that.
Yeah. I bet you could have some good comedy about it. Yes. Probably somebody in the office is passive aggressive.
Who is passive aggressive? That's exactly what I was thinking.
No, I don't watch it enough to know. I'll have to think of a character that I think is.
Who is passive aggressive in the office? I watched The Office more than 100 times, so I know exactly which season, which story.
Ask somebody else that watches it a lot. My kids watch it. I don't watch it.
Okay, if anybody watches this live streaming, and if you watch The Office, like Michael Scott, who is the passive aggressive? Michael Scott is not passive aggressive. I'll come back. Okay, I'm sorry. There's some comment. Okay, so I'm more used to express my uncomfortable feeling more indirectly, but a friend from the West referred it as passive aggressive. I am more used to express my uncomfortable feeling more indirectly. So indirectly can be perceived as the passive aggressive.
Possibly, yeah.
Hi, yay. Back home, when someone says something that is obviously not smart, someone might reply to them, "Bless your heart."
Oh, yes, I've heard that in the South. They say, "Bless your heart." And that does not mean a good thing. Although my voice teacher said that to me, and I had to actually, the next time I talked to her, say, that made me feel kind of funny, because I hear that people from where you live say that when they mean you've really blown it and made a mistake. But instead of getting into it, they just say, "Bless your heart." She's like, "No, I really meant it." So it was a funny conversation.
Thank you so much, Shawan. Can I complain one thing as a non-American?
Yes.
How am I supposed to learn that? Wow, how am I supposed to know those things in the conversation? So when somebody said, "Oh, good for you," it doesn't mean good for me.
Oh, I think it does. I think it
Okay.
usually does. I think it usually does. It's just certain phrases like "bless your heart" from a Southerner. You should really pay attention to see if they mean it or if they're actually saying you're hopeless. Sort of like in Japan, if you get angry enough, you write them off. Have they written you off? But yeah, these are subtle things about a culture. How would I learn such things in Japan?
I don't know how to explain
It's
that because I
very
don't.
hard in a second language.
Wow. And we are discussing in the different language about the different culture.
Right.
Of course,
Right.
we're gonna get into trouble.
Yes. Well, but
Wow.
you get some grace because it's your second language too. I think.
Yeah. I'm trying to implement every. It makes sense. I mean,
How does a mother in Japan, what would a mother say to a child that was going to go outside without a coat? In the Netherlands, they would say, you must put on your coat. In the United States, even a parent to a child would usually say, you should put on a coat, implying it's the child's decision, but the parent wants them to do this. Now, if the child chooses not to, the parent may go on to something stronger. But the first thing they say in the Netherlands is you must do it. And that's not offensive. So what would a Japanese parent say to their child that was about to go outside without a coat?
do a jacket.
Do a jacket?
Do your jacket? Probably following an idiot kind of thing.
So they would give a command, but they wouldn't
like,
put must do. It would be the child would know they must do it, but they wouldn't have to use the word must. I find that very odd. And at work, the boss would say to the workers, you must do it. That just sounds offensive to me.
Wow. Offensive.
Offensive. Yes, because it does not acknowledge the individual receiving the commands right to decide what they're going to do.
Wait. Wow. So if I say you must learn Japanese culture to practice sashiko, it's kind of offensive.
A little.
I have never said that.
Except I would actually attribute that to a language thing and probably not get offended. But yeah, must is a tricky word. I wouldn't use it very much. Should is fine. Should is, it would be best if you did. It might go badly for you if you don't, but you obviously get to choose. You can make a good choice or a bad choice, but you get to choose. Must means there's no choice.
Who made this language? It's so
I know, it's so hard, isn't it?
like many people say, oh, English is easy, so that, the learning Japanese is difficult. No, trust me, English is super difficult.
I'm sure that there are subtleties in Japanese too that would be very, very hard to learn.
Yes, and kind of no, but because when you are able to speak Japanese language as communicatable, you have to kind of understand the culture itself too.
Well, that was the best thing about living in the Netherlands. I learned enough Dutch. Things like this must, the way they say certain things really reveal a lot about how they view the world and about the culture. So that's kind of what you're saying in your stories is, this is how the Japanese see this. And that's what's so fascinating is it's another way of looking at the world, and the stories and the language show that. I don't know. I think
it is my whole point. Like,
yeah.
To be honest, I want to just share about Sashiko too. Like, beautiful photo. This is Sashiko. That's the whole that's the beginning of the purpose of my account.
Mm-hmm.
But I just learned that it's not gonna be okay without explaining how. It's beautiful is very good, but that's the end of all the story.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it's okay to just share my stories and everybody would enjoy that. In reality, I have to explain how come that story was there to share all the meaning of that.
Right. And why it's important and what it illustrates, because it's not obvious. Yeah. In a second language, it's very challenging for you. It's good that you try.
I am. It's
Yeah,
I
it's good
feel
that
like
you
it's
do it.
kind of impossible to do it, but I thought it was impossible to do it. But it depends on the editor. That's what I kind of started getting it. If I can get a good editor, probably it's possible.
Trying to bribe that dog into coming up.
Hello.
I'll come. My dad just is bringing the dog back. How about I come get him in a little bit? Because I'm
Sure,
on
sure.
Zoom and he cries.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
It's perfect. We can.
I know. No,
end
it's
it
okay.
here. Okay. It's going a little over time. Well,
Whenever
probably.
you need to.
Well,
But I thought
just
you were
wanna
going to finish that project.
know,
wanna
I know.
See it.
Can you wait? Can you wait 15 more minutes?
Yes.
This one and
You really have only a few lines.
only a few lines. I was supposed to finish it. Like, I did. If I didn't have to think about those passive aggressiveness, I would have.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's
I made it hard.
Oh, that was passive aggressive. Wasn't it passive aggressive?
A little. It could have been. I don't think you meant it that way. It could have
didn't.
been. Yes.
Oh, so I kind of blame you as a joke, but it could
Right.
be.
Right.
I
That's
might
it.
be. I might be good at it.
You probably would be. I think it fits fairly well in with the Japanese. Be
Japanese
polite
made-
and think other things in your head.
Wow. Well, is it
It might be
another?
letting the other things out more than is acceptable in real Japanese culture, though.
Come again? I'm sorry, I didn't get that. What?
It would be letting the ideas inside out more than is okay in Japanese culture.
Okay.
They're not as hidden.
Okay. Oh, because the purpose of the passive aggressive is to communicate your message.
Right. But not directly. Yes.
So you don't want to say you have to do it, you must do it, yet you kind of.
You want them to know they should do it. Yes. But you aren't going to say you have to do it. Right.
And this world is. How do they make this?
I don't think.
This big culture.
All cultures have their strangeness.
US is the #1 country in the world.
No.
Full of passive aggressiveness. Wow.
I have a question, Atsushi.
Sure. Go ahead.
So after you finish the stitching,
Yes.
I washed mine and then I had to trim all the ends. Do you like trimming the ends?
No, I hate it.
Yeah, that's the worst part.
I hate it, and I'm not very good at it because I'm not. I'm very spoiled.
You said you had people in Japan that did it for you. I'm so jealous. But now you have to do it yourself, don't you?
Well, I'm not selling this, so I might not do it. It's okay.
I don't do it on my jeans. I don't do it. I just leave all the ends inside because who cares? I don't mind them.
Exactly.
But if I'm selling it, yeah, I have to do it. And that I did trim it on that because you made the point of both sides are supposed to be nice and I tucked everything in. And so I did trim that one, even though I'm keeping it.
It's not the best. Well, but if you learned how to use this grip scissor,
Mm-hmm.
maybe.
It still takes a long time.
So
and you end up with all those little pieces that get everywhere.
Yeah, that's. I don't know if you watch my video about this grip scissors, but if you cut like this,
mm-hmm.
Do you see that?
It's pretty
really,
quick.
It's really not helpful if you cut like this, because there's always a space in between these two blades.
Oh, okay. So you're just show me again.
Do you see that?
Yeah.
So instead of like doing like this,
letting them open all the way, yeah.
You push this side this way, and you lift this one here, like.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, how can I say, the top blade goes down and then below blade goes up. So it's almost like this.
And it's just a tiny little movement. Oh, I didn't know that. I will try that again with mine. Yeah.
Then try to hold it as tip as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can cut like Minecraft.
Ah, like Pac-Man eating the dots.
Yeah, Pac-Man. Yep.
Okay,
I mean, it
that's a
might
good
help.
trick. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I like drawing the pattern and stitching way better.
I don't like drawing the pattern either, so
Oh, I don't mind that part. When it works. Every once in a while you get a piece of fabric that doesn't have enough structure and it sort of moves and then your lines aren't right. That's very frustrating. That's very frustrating. Sometimes I just wash it out and don't make that pattern. It was helpful. Oh, it was one of these Sashiko talks where the one woman was talking about when she had the really old fabric that you couldn't do like the Asanoha pattern on it because you needed to just do straight lines to not stress the fabric. That was really helpful.
Yeah, patterns are kind of luxury things to do.
Right. On fabric that's at the beginning of its life rather than the end.
So when you have a good fabric, your goal is to extend that fabric.
Right.
Then pattern is very important.
Yeah.
But when you have the old fabric already requiring the attention, then pattern might destroy the fabric more.
Right. I had not really realized that. I mean, I think I had realized it when I tried to do things, but I hadn't realized it as kind of a rule to use, or that it should be that way. It wasn't just a problem I was having. So that was really helpful.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult to find those fabric that you cannot even stitch a pattern though. It means very fragile.
Oh, I have a lot of that vintage Japanese fabric. It's that fragile.
Vintage itself is doable, but I think she was meaning more fragile.
Well, look at this piece. Like this?
Yeah.
Do you see that? If you try to do a pattern on that, you just rip this to shreds.
Then don't do it. Wow, you have a lot of good vintage fabric. Yeah,
this one's fun because it has some of it that still looks good with the nice fading at the edge. And then it turns into, this must have been out in the sun or something. I don't know. So all different. And then I have this one too, which also has the same problems. But it's kind of fun for projects because as long as you use it more like patches, you can show the new fabric and the very old worn fabric and the different colors of the indigo.
Yep.
I don't know. But you cannot sew Asanoha on that. It would be bad.
Asanoha is, I love Asanoha, but Asanoha requires the fabric to be kind of healthier.
Yes. That indigo fabric you sell is very nice for that. Yeah.
Some of the fabrics are very difficult to. Yes, some fabrics are good for the carved pattern. It really.
Oh, is that right? Which ones are best for the curves? Do you like that on denim or on the?
You might be surprised, but silk.
Oh, does it pucker less? Or you mean the heavy silk, like more? I got some old silk kimono fabric and I sent it on to somebody else because I couldn't sew anything on it without it puckering.
Silk, you said puckering, right?
Yes.
That's because the stitch is a little too big.
Oh,
so
right. And it was just impossible to get the tension right.
Exactly. So you have to make the stitches as small as possible.
And probably use finer thread too.
You may use this thread, but this thread is cotton 100%. So it doesn't catch the fabric as much as it does with the cotton fabric.
Okay.
So you have
But tiny stitches would fix it. Well, I'll try that next time.
Then when tiny stitches are made, curves patterns looks much more beautiful.
Yeah. So, and you almost have to, I do remember when I did the shippo that you have to make small stitches just to do the curve.
Yeah, I mean, it's better.
That's
It's better.
interesting.
It's better
Good.
to, but sometimes I don't like silk to stitch, so it's your choice.
Well, and I think you're the same way. I kind of prefer to do a long in the same direction, and the curves you're always turning.
Yep, it's the common, how do you say, common complaints from my students. They kind of get not upset, but sort of not even agitated. That's a kind of good review or bad review, I don't know, but they said, wow, I don't want to stitch any more like curve patterns. How, like, it's because of you. Like, oh, okay.
Because of you? What do you mean?
Oh, because of this running stitch. Like, I understand. Not it's
I
very,
see. It's affected their willingness to do that in other work now, because this is better. This is more satisfying.
and they usually, some of them actually purchase big piece, like
Ah.
pictures like geisha patterns or those,
Oh, it's all curves.
and they, like when you stitch one by one, it's not that big of a deal. It's more like filling the space and filling. It's like a drawing,
Right.
and they enjoy it. They can enjoy that. But
now
when,
they're aware of another way.
because you kind of stitch for the purpose of stitching, not finishing the project. That's a scary part of this. Like, it is very important to complete the project. Like, it is very important for me to finish this. But I will probably feel sad when I finish it because there's no more straight line to stitch.
I felt very sad when I finished that project.
See, so that's kind of, kind of crazy from the other people.
Well, and I don't know about your other people, but I was like, well, should I just get another one and do it again?
Well, that's when I should ask you to do that for your job. So I'll ask you. I'll
Anytime. I would be very happy to do that for you.
I'll be better business person that I can market those things and somebody
There you go.
willing to pay for somebody stitch that.
Yeah.
But that's probably what my family did. So they wanted to do something and they didn't mind to do those things with very, very small fee. And they could make it somewhat business. Like if I asked this Sashiko stitching as the hourly paid work,
Oh, I know.
it's gonna be pretty difficult to make it as the
Same with quilting. Even the Amish quilts and things that people still do, they don't get enough per hour to make it.
ideally
Family.
Yeah, ideally it should be like that. To the sustainable culture, one should get paid for the amount of their labor, and those labor is usually calculated by hours of work.
Yeah, ideally, I agree.
Ideally, but who it's kind of excused as the person who tried to make it as a business, but if you have $20,000, you might want to buy some car or update the kitchen.
Right. And that's why teaching and selling supplies works better.
It has to come with that. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that I can teach because I wasn't planning to teach in the beginning. I was gonna just sell what my mother makes, like natural dye stuff. So,
but I think that by the teaching, you also expose, and the Instagram and Facebook, you expose many more people to what your mother makes. So you have a much better market for it too.
Yes, it was a very good idea. I mean, but without some people helping me to bring up the world, it wouldn't happen. It's not that easy to say like, oh, I want to teach, so can you take my workshop?
Yeah.
Because
have you gotten much feedback from your selvage talk?
Yes, few people sign up for the workshops. That's 2 sign up from that.
Good.
It's very appreciated.
Is that at a certain time that you'll be doing it, or is it just more the regular online workshop when they sign up, they get to do it?
Oh, I do the workshop with the self-edge too.
Okay.
So I think people probably sign up for that, hopefully.
Mhm.
Oh, but another thing, I think it's okay to say it, but one of the first, I tried to write for publication as much as I can. I don't publish a book. Of course, I wish I can, but I don't publish a book as mine yet. I found another.
What? Did you sew it together?
No, I found another line that I didn't finish. So,
Oh, well, better now than when you thought you were done. I did it. I just started at one side and went every line.
that's what I was supposed to do. I thought I thought this was the last.
Oh. Is there only one missing?
No, only not a one. Whole section missing. See. Well, I promised, so I'm sorry. Please bear with me a little bit more.
You're gonna finish it. Good.
Oh, I'm not a quitter.
Can you show where your lines cross? Can you put it up close to the camera?
The front side or back side? I mean, the showing side or wrong
Yes, the front side, or maybe both, but first the front side.
side?
I love when all the stitches build up. I just wanted to see if that's what you did. I love that.
I was thinking what to do with that, but
Some people chose to avoid the crossing on the front, which is also interesting, but I love when they all cross. It makes it really strong right there.
I have those. How can I do that? I have a phobia for those collective things. Like I cannot keep looking at the strawberries. It
At the
freakens me
what?
out. Like I have a phobia. Like some strawberry. Like if I keep looking at strawberries, it gives me kind of
Strawberries.
Like there's so many dots that I become kind of uncomfortable. So I shouldn't be doing sashiko much, but when I see the asanho patterns with a lot of center open, I get like a little bit uncomfortable. I think it's beautiful, but
I've done it a couple times, like when I did a little dress for a little girl with pink on the denim. Then I left the centers open to make it look more like flowers.
Yeah. It's really much the choice. So
yeah, but I don't do it all the time. It was just for a certain reason I did it.
Yeah.
I like the crossing. And I like, actually, a lot of times I don't even worry about it. With that, you have a lot of crossings, even if you're not planning.
Yep, I don't really
to
care.
avoid lots of crossings, you had to really plan.
Yeah. And when you kind of start trying to crossing, a mistake becomes very obvious.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't care about it, the mistake is never going to happen because nothing's a mistake.
Right.
I like that.
Me too.
Like when you stitch this much while talking, of course you make a mistake.
Right.
Of course. So if you can hide it, that's very good. Trypophobia. Do you know this word? Trypophobia.
No. I know phobia, but I don't know trypophobia.
Trypophobia. It's something that really collect patterns makes me feel strange. Uneasy.
What kind of patterns?
Like the strawberries dot is really
right. Or and the open centered sashiko makes you feel a little the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We went to the botanical gardens in Denver, and they had a Japanese garden. And it's kind of funny. My favorite part was the pathway. There were some rocks, just big rocks, And then around it, they had put little like river rocks, but on edge that made patterns. And the people I was with said, Sharron, it looks like you're stitching. I was like, I love it. I'll have to send you a picture.
Well, that's another kind of disease, not a disease, another problem that you have after doing sashiko, because everything looks like sashiko patterns.
Well, yeah.
Oh, I can use that as a patterns. Oh yeah, I can use that.
I took a picture of it. And I thought, oh, I could put that. Maybe I'll
See?
put it on this. Yeah,
See?
I don't know. Tonight, just so I could stitch, I just did all straight lines because I could do that. And then on the brown, I'm going to probably do asanoha. So
that's what happens. So the trypophobia is the phobia for a lot of dots together. Like
it's
the
a real thing?
Like the holes in lotus root. I don't like lotus root too.
You don't like lotus root?
Like yes, lotus root.
I don't know what the root looks like. I only know what the flower looks like.
Root.
The kind of round thing with those holes? That's what you don't like?
So I'm sorry?
Is it a round brown pod with holes in it?
Yeah. Those holes are not good.
Really? Why? You
Why?
just don't like patterns of holes. Patterns of stitches are good. Patterns of holes are bad.
Well, so I'm probably not supposed to be stitching much, but Sashiko is okay, I guess. Or probably because of Sashiko, I don't like it. I don't know, but it makes me feel a little bit uneasy. It's not like I'm scared of something. I'm not gonna be like, oh, please don't bring me the strawberries. It's more I can eat strawberries. It's more like I feel a little uneasy when it happens. So trypophobia, oh my, I can't do anything with the whilst in it but strawberries, but don't bother.
That is a word I had never heard. I
don't have any fear in height. I don't have any fears in anything much, like not a claustrophobic, like small places. But those like continuous patterns of dot, which is exactly Sashiko's description. But oops, what?
Are lines better than dots?
Lines okay. Lines kind of okay, but dot is not okay.
Like you would never put French knots all over something then.
That's not my preference. No. Yes. Like the lot of knots makes me feel very, very uncomfortable. So there are some quilting with a lot of knot as the part of the pattern. As much as I think it's beautiful, I feel like a little bit uneasy.
Interesting.
My skin is crawling right now. By here, yes.
Well, and you know what's funny? Knots don't bother me, but heights and small spaces, oh, those are bad.
Okay. All right. We have a different thing.
Yep.
I might have a sashikophobia then. Oopsie.
Well, no, but it's why you use kasame.
Maybe so. Maybe
avoid the knots.
But this doesn't make me feel better neither, though. This makes me uneasy.
Oh, the little ends?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I bet you'll trim it.
I might not. It's a big internal fight. Do I like it? I probably forget about this fabric for a while.
Do you find sometimes I find it less with Sashiko, but sometimes when I do projects, I like the idea and I start it and then I don't like it very well around the time I finish it. And then if I put it away for a few days or a month, then when I find it, I like it again.
Yeah. It's very common.
Okay.
My mother is like that as well. And she usually carry 10 projects at once.
Well, you said sometimes she undoes things because she dislikes it so much.
Yeah. That's why I keep asking, Mom, please do several projects together so you don't really focus on one thing and do it break
And
it, do it, and break it, and then that's
Yeah.
But it happens, like, because you don't like it, then you don't like it. But if you wait it, you might like it.
Where is the jacket that the women, oh no, have I messed up? Didn't pull something oh no, I'm working on that one. It's okay. The jacket with the sakura colored thread and the different, it's a very different pattern. The 18 women sewed on. Do you have that in New York or in Pennsylvania now, or is it still in Japan?
It's in Japan.
Okay.
We will have the exhibition when we go back to Japan together one day. So that you'll see it. You'll see it.
Well, I hope I get to see it, but if it sells before then, that's probably better.
Oh,
for you
it's
guys.
not for sale. It's not for sale.
Oh, it's not for sale. Good. Then I get to see it.
I promised them to not to make it sell.
Good.
So we can.
I'm
take
really
it.
looking forward to that, seeing all the same stitching, but by different people. So the different stitching, that will be good.
Yep, that's gonna be like I've never done that too, and I haven't seen it in person yet.
Mm.
So I'm in the same boat. So like we will take the orders based on that idea,
Mhm.
but until we kind of put it in the exhibition first and then share it to the outside of the world, even
And-
after that, it's not gonna be for sale.
And would you have the same people work on it again? So
I can
the
ask.
idea of having a jacket with different artisans?
We can do it again.
Good.
We just don't know how to price it.
Well, yes, there is that. That's always a problem.
You know, they some of them don't want to take money because they feel kind of inferior of their stitching.
Oh,
But I want to pay.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much is the
Oh, so the pricing, it's not even just for selling it, it's also for paying them. That is tricky. Yeah.
Yeah, it cannot be kind of if it's Keiko, it's kind of easy. We can change it later on.
Right.
If something bad happens, we can I can ask Keiko to I'm sorry, we have to cut your profit like this.
Right, but we want to sell it or whatever, or yeah.
But if I set it some standard, I cannot change it that easily
I know.
because of that. And
I
wanna be
struggle
fair.
between, yes. Well, and I struggle, and in that case, I don't know. It's hard to find a balance between, well, I would like to sell it, or it should be worth this much because of the time or because of the quality, or do you sell it for enough to pay for the materials so you can make the next thing? But that's not a business.
Well, what I do is the last one you mentioned. That's how we started.
Mhm.
And it's still the same. I mean, I cannot support my family with this. It is simply impossible to do it in the US. Like with the health insurance that I have to purchase, if I have to purchase the health insurance and all the cost
right.
of living, the Sashiko itself is not gonna,
Mhm.
even like selling or teaching is gonna boost my profit. It's not that. I mean, that's how we started. Keiko started making without any companies, and she started borrowing money from the bank for the purpose of making it. Then, well, Mom, you have to kind of circulate if you're gonna keep making it.
Right.
That's 2014 that we started the Sashida CEO.
Mhm.
So, and I don't know anybody actually who is the artist or the
What about
artisan.
like Junko Oko, or well, it's not completely Sashiko, or that Uzi, but her things are not priced very high.
I don't
Considering
think,
what, I don't even, I mean, they cover the materials, but it looks like there's so much time that goes into them, and they're really very low prices for what they are to me.
Yeah, they are. I mean, first of all, Japanese cost of living is very low. So that's one thing we can consider.
As long as you're not in Tokyo.
But Tokyo is not that expensive neither. I mean,
oh really?
I mean, it can be expensive, but you can be kind of lower end as well. I don't want to say lower end, but cheaper.
You can live affordably, yeah, economically.
It's probably impossible to live in New York because food itself is very expensive, right? And the food you cannot kind of compromise.
Right.
In Japan, food is very, very, very affordable. Pretty good too.
Well, I remember that if you get at sort of a snack bar, for not very many dollars, you can get a lot of good food. I remember it was less. You can also get very expensive food if you go other places, but you don't have to eat.
Well, but in US is quite, if you want to eat very good, satisfying food, probably a few $100 might be a good investment. I don't, with wine and everything.
Yeah, well, and in New York, you can't even get a hamburger for $20. A lot of places, right? It's awful.
Well,
yeah,
that's very how expensive. The US is strong. But the same ramen, ramen, it becomes like $5 in Japan. So it's. I don't think those artisans are charging that much money, and I don't think they're making a.
No, I doubt they're supporting themselves. Yes,
they might be. I might be just wrong, but that's how I was raised.
Kind of interesting though, because I see a lot of like painters, and some of them don't charge very much, but some of them it's $10,000, $20,000 for one painting. It's fascinating to me. I don't know what textile artists charge that kind of money. I don't know. Well, maybe there are some, I just haven't seen them.
Every time I talk to the artist, they say that textile art is the lowest ranked or valued.
Oh, interesting. Because it's too close to home economics and the things that people learned to do and did. I wonder why. Probably
too ordinary, or
like
if they say like I do, I don't consider Sashiko as the art, then I understand that. But they are a textile artist, and then I think they should be paid as much as the other fine artist.
Well, and the jackets your mom makes are art. They have to be.
Yep, we try.
Or certainly a very high craft. I don't know.
We have to try. But I don't think they can, sometimes 6 figures. Art can be 6 figures, 7 figures, right? Like $1 million.
Yes, right.
I don't think the textile can be like that. I don't see the future.
Yeah.
But
I guess designer clothing sells for that much.
It does?
It sells for 6 figures for sure, yeah.
Designer's dress?
Yeah. The real ones, the handmade ones from France.
Wow.
Sure. I think those will be.
Okay. Yeah. I got a lot to learn.
I don't think it would be as satisfying to make.
Nah, I mean, it's very difficult. I mean, the pricing is kind of the essence of business.
Yeah.
In any business.
Yeah.
And it's a trade-off. You price high and you have to kind of add.
Atsushi.
Yes.
Funny story. Do you remember the shirt? It was a denim shirt I had it looked sort of like Hogan all over the front. I sold it on Etsy for $650.
Congratulations.
And she said, oh, I saw it and I was afraid somebody else would buy it. And she loves it.
Yep.
I really put it on there thinking, well, if somebody wants to pay that much, okay. It was my shirt.
I mean, it's worth. I mean, in my opinion, you could charge double. You could have charged double. I mean,
in a certain way, yes, and in a certain way, if I put it on for 200, would it have sat there for 5 years?
no, I don't think so. I mean, your Sashiko is getting to that area. I'm not, I'm not making sweet talk. Your Sashiko is becoming, or actually became.
Well, but it was nice. So it kind of encouraged me to not be so careful in what I set the prices at. Because if somebody really likes it, I guess they'll buy it anyway.
Yeah, and you're very, very, very not exclusive, unique. I mean, trust me, not many people can do that much. I mean, the stitch amount we make is, I don't want to say insane, but
it is a little. That's what my aunt said when she saw that shirt. She said, "Do you have a mental problem?"
yeah. I'm joking. Like that's.
Are you obsessive? It's like, well, I wanted to see if I could do it, and I did. I think what's unusual sometimes is that we finish them. We don't just start them and drop them. But I like to finish things.
Sometimes they don't really believe that it's hand stitched.
Yes. Yes, I have made jackets and stuff for my sister-in-law and her daughter, and people will comment on it and she'll say, my sister-in-law made it. And they're like, oh, what machine does she use? And she's like, no, she stitched it by hand. And they're like, they don't believe it.
No.
They assume it had to be done by a machine. It's like, what kind of machine would do that?
But it's just impossible for them to believe that. And unfortunately, some people look at me as if I'm a complete loser.
Oh,
because I have that much time to stitch. Like, wow, it's so bored. You have so much free time to stitch that much, because if I stitch one stitch by one stitch, like this.
Right. This does go much faster. I like this way better.
And they don't know that I can stitch while talking.
Right. And I like to stitch either while having something kind of silly on the TV, or better yet, a podcast or music or a book on tape. Yeah, so that my brain is busy and my hands stitch nicely.
Exactly. So this is not, I mean, we shouldn't say that, but although this is work, it is not work sometimes.
Right.
We might price it, but at the same time, we were watching TV while making that.
Right. I think knitting is like that too. Most people that knit are not just sitting and knitting.
So that's the kind of interesting part of the handcraft. I mean, what kind of job is okay to have a drink next to you while do that?
Right. Well, right. A lot of art.
That's a good point. Yeah, that yeah. Art requires more than that, more than booze.
Yeah. Well, but it requires a freedom that sometimes the substances help, I guess. I don't know. I'm not really into that kind of thing, but
sorry, my cell phone is off. I didn't realize that.
Oh.
So I will just show my hand instead of face.
You're getting very close again to being done.
Well, I have one more line. So after this, I have one more line. So 2 more lines.
I think I just put more stitches than I had thread.
Time attack.
I might have to take some out.
Yeah, this was a bad idea. I should have done as you did. 1 line by 1 line.
You did do all one color though, right?
No. Nope.
Oh, so you have, what colors do you have?
White and white. 2 kinds of white.
So you have the bright white and then the natural white?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, shoot. Oh, no, that's okay. I can fix that. Just almost made a knot on the front. That would be bad.
Oh my, I'm sorry, this is the upside down. It's probably very annoying.
Did your cell phone
It's battery
run out? Yeah.
It's well, I have still iPhone 4S, which I don't use as the main one anymore, but I'm still using 4S.
Oh, for your extra camera.
Yep.
That's great. But the battery's not terrific on those
No.
compared to the new ones. Yeah.
Nope. It's horrible, actually.
Yeah.
And I forgot.
And made worse by Apple, actually, I think.
Well, it's surprising that it's still working.
Do you know why I got my very first iPhone? It was because it was cheap. I wanted an iPod, and it was cheaper to buy the iPhone.
Really?
Yeah, because they had some specials. I was like, well, I guess I can do that. Before that, I had one of these military-style flip phones that you could drop in the water. You could drop it from, the roof of your house, and it was okay. So I moved to a phone that does lots more and is way more fragile.
But it's really, we have to have it now.
Yes, that's true. We do.
But this, live session or not live session, the Sashiko Talk wouldn't happen if there's no technologies.
Mm-hmm.
And this is really epic thing to do. I always wanted to make this kind of place for anybody to belong to.
Mm-hmm.
We just have it now with you and me because it's kind of safer to limit the people. But anybody who come here every week, 2 weeks as a viewer, I want this to be kind of place for them to be.
When we did we did the Zoom meeting and people came and stitched early in COVID. That was the most fun I'd had because I hadn't seen any people for 2 months or something.
Right.
And it was I just laughed and we told stories. It was so fun.
It was fun. We should do it again. But
this is kind of like that too.
Well, that was, uncontrollable. So
right. That's very true. Well, we talked about a lot of deep things tonight. Passive aggressive and privilege and
culture is okay. Culture is very much the core topic that in my account.
Yes.
So it's okay to talk about cultural appropriation or cultural differences. However, when we come to the religion and politics,
no, better not to go there. Then we're asking for trouble.
Yes. And also, gender, we kind of did it today, but gender, more like focusing on the sex side, is pretty scary. So
yeah,
but when we have a lot of people, we kind of talk that. Because that's what we talk in the offline.
Yeah, it's probably easier to get into some of those conversations. We did that night, actually. Yes, you're right. I forgot. I have forgotten that, but yes, we did. But we were pretty much in agreement. But yeah, that's probably not a good way to put on just the public.
We assume that everybody was on the same understanding because we only hang out with the people who, have a similar mindset.
Right. And that was true that night.
But that was scary. Like, for me, it was a little bit kind of yay.
I hadn't even thought about that, but yeah, that makes sense. I think, and you read it correctly, I think. Because you're more used to predicting what the responses of things are going to be, whereas I don't think any of us are putting videos on YouTube and
no. If I were gonna put that on the YouTube or even like live streaming, I would have stopped anything like. I probably would have made the rules before.
Yeah, that we just wouldn't go there. Yeah, that's good.
I can facilitate, but I let it go back then. So
yeah.
That's why probably it was more fun. Because
That might be why we never did it again.
we will, but not the
Okay.
public.
Good. So when you're doing your the final in-person part of your workshop, like I think you're on number 19 now for the online. How many people do you tend to have come to one of those, participate in one of those now? Is it just a few at a time still?
Yeah, a few at a time.
One or two? Yeah.
I don't have. I really limit the participant every month.
Okay.
So like I probably can have like more than 5 if I market well.
Mm-hmm.
But I always limit until the five is maximum.
Okay.
So I can follow up.
Just offer another one. Yeah, so that you could pay attention to each student.
They have a different speed. So worst case scenario, the 20 people can email me at the same time. So 20 is probably doable, but more than 100, it can be very, very overwhelming. So, but not many people can finish it in this first month. Usually they finish within a year. But it requires some work. That's the thing. Like,
well, it just requires some practice. But I would think it would be easier to get it in your fingers and the feel of it if you did it closer together than in a year, but whatever. That was just my approach, I guess.
No, it happens. Like I I do the same, but when I purchase something, I feel like I did something already.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know what you're saying.
Oh my God.
I just paid for an acoustic guitar class online. And I really waffles like, is it worth it? Okay, fine. I bought it. I have not opened it yet.
I cannot judge them because I do the same thing all the thing.
Yeah, I will, I think. It's just been a very busy time. So, and then like I'm working on this tenigui bag for me, which is really satisfying because I know it's for me and I'm going to keep it. I know what I want to use it for, but I also need to make several for friends. I have 10 days. I need to have 3 to give away. So I'm going to have to work on those too. I may not be able to just finish this.
See,
I have to work on those.
So we have a priority.
Yes.
We have tendency and preference. I bought the slow cooker, which I never even opened it.
Oh, like a crock pot?
Yeah.
Or an Instapot?
Instapot.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
I should have one, but I don't. So I still have the old-fashioned crock pots. But they're nice because they make the whole house smell so good because it cooks all day.
Yeah, my wife is vegetarian, so.
We don't need to cook anything all day then.
Nope. I want to make chili, but chili without meat is kind of.
Does she eat cheese and dairy products at least?
Yeah, that was the agreement on our marriage.
Okay.
But she used to be vegan.
I have a wonderful recipe for either Savoy cabbage or I make it with Brussels sprouts gratin. It has Gouda cheese and cream. Oh, so good. Even my dad, who's very much a meat lover, likes it. We fought over the leftovers last time I made it, so it was fun. But you don't need an Instapot for that, just the oven.
Okay, finished. I'll drink water.
Oh, good for you. That looks great. That pattern is so satisfying, I think.
5 months.
I want to see one of your mother's jackets with this pattern too.
Oh yeah, it's in Japan too.
Mm-hmm.
It's the about a meter square. A meter square? Yes, I think it's a meter square. Yes, meter square furoshiki, and this can be a bag, can be anything. And this is very, as Sharon said right now, it's very satisfying patterns because this length is kind of the good practice length for the unshin writing stitch. So this was fairly satisfying. It's kind of bothering here, but you know. By the way, there's no knots. It's all kasane. All right. Thank you so much, Sharon. Thank you.
All right,
2
thank
hours.
you.
Thank you so much. Have a good night. Okay.
You
Thank
too.
you. Thank you very much for everybody else. I will see you in 2 weeks. Bye bye. Thank you. Just a second, Sharon.